Okay, folks, we're live. So let me know if anybody's out there. We're kind of waiting to see. I do see a number at some point, but I don't see anything yet. So um, I'm waiting for my cell phone to bring up the show so that I can watch that chat because then I can see the numbers there. Um, there we go. We're live. And we still register 0, but I've got 6 in the chat with us. Well, that'd be 5 plus me. 10. So we have a bunch coming on pretty quick. Larry's with us. He's back. And we'll have to consider the stress he's been under and his voice today. So, C. Jacobs says hi, Larry. She's here. She's quite faithfully here. So we're up to 21. So let me grab my notebook so I can keep track of the questions and take notes. So now you go ahead, take it away. Today's the October. Hang on, it's October 23rd. It's Wednesday, October 23rd.
All right, folks. Today is a great day, I believe, for the country, for our military. Many of you probably saw President Trump hold a press conference or a press announcement, press statement, more than anything else, where he announced that a permanent ceasefire has been agreed to by all parties in the Syrian-Turkey Kurd entanglement. Let me tell you the good news about it. Number one, the president was guarded as he should have been, using the word permanent. When it comes to the Middle East, permanent don't always mean permanent. As I've told y'all before, these confrontations have gone on for centuries. It's not as easy as just saying, okay, let's stop fighting. You know, the fighting is made up of generals, yes. It's made up of prime ministers and presidents, leaders of countries, yes. But it's also made up of individual people that may or may not choose to lay down their weapon. And so in that case, you've got fighting. Sporadic as it may start, oftentimes, however, when one side, one rogue person kills another person on the other side, then that person, his group, responds back. And then oftentimes, you're back in an escalation. But for now, there's reason to believe that we have as solid a peace accord in that region as can be had. And much credit should go to President Trump. He went against Democrats, certainly. He went against Republicans that want to, for whatever their personal reason, to keep us involved. He went against all of that, the media, everybody, in the interest of doing one thing, primarily, and that was keep his word to us. He said he would get us out of these never-ending wars, and that's what he's trying to do. He did it as tactfully and as gracefully, I believe, as could have been done. Some of the details that you will soon hear of the agreement, one of them is fairly significant. Erdogan, President, has said he has lifted existing sanctions. However, he has made it quite clear in this accord that if Erdogan violates the accord in any way, he does not plan to simply reinstate the sanctions that have been in place. He has promised that he will bankrupt Turkey the next day. So Erdogan really got a problem. No matter if he wants to break this peace accord, he had better be very careful, because President Trump, as most people should know by now, does not bluff. And he's not bluffing about this. Now, of course, you've all started to hear, and you'll be hearing more of it, the rumblings of, oh my God, now Russia and Turkey are going to align themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Please stop and think. Stop and think. I've told you before, but I'm going to tell you again. There is an area, it's about 20 miles wide, that's the buffer zone. It stretches for many miles in the northeastern part of Syria. The no-fire zone, buffer zone, whatever you want to call it. That has to be monitored. That has to be protected. So the choice is, for President Trump, do we want to put American soldiers in that buffer zone or not? And as we've done here, he has done himself. Any American put in that situation is in, by definition, harm's way. In harm's way. And can be shot by parties on either side. Do you want your son or daughter walking around in that area with the potential of getting shot? The answer is no. No, you don't. Well, he doesn't want anybody's son or daughter doing it. So therefore, there ought to be somebody to protect the buffer zone, the no-fire zone, whatever you want to call it, and that is Russia. That's Russia. Maybe Putin thinks he can get in there and make a deal with Erdogan. I'm not saying he doesn't think he can do it. He may think he can. But here's the problem for Russia. They do not have the power economically. They don't have the strength economically to put the pressure that we can on Turkey. So when it gets down to either or, if that day comes, Erdogan knows very well which side he has to align himself with. Now, for Russia having to work the buffer zone, President Trump has been quite clear about this. Where are the other NATO members in the region? It would be better than having Russia if we had NATO members in the region and in Europe provide the military to protect the zone. It would be. But they're not willing to ante up. So if they're not willing to ante up, if they're not willing to do that, then I do hope they have enough common sense to keep their damn mouth shut about bitching about Trump letting the Russians do it. Somebody's got to do it. It's not going to be America. As long as President Trump is president, it's not going to be America in any of these places. He made that quite clear in his statement today. We are no longer a world police force. We're not going to be. Isn't it different? Doesn't it just feel different to y'all? Having a president that protects us, that looks after us first, that thinks about us first, that doesn't run around and pretend that they're thinking about us while all the while they're committing everything we have, money, blood, treasure, to countries that hate our guts and always will. It's different. President Trump has brought change, the change he promised. Another promise made, another promise kept. And I can tell y'all, being the first to hear it, I believe, very soon you're going to be hearing, got to be careful what I say here, but very soon you're going to be hearing that American troops are going to be pulled out of another country. Another country. And it's going to open again. The griping and complaining. It is. But he's going to do it. And it needs to be done. So hold on. You're going to see it very soon. We're going to give this one in Syria just a little time to settle, to make sure that the president has worked a policy that may be workable throughout the region. But look at the Syrian, Turkey, Kurdish situation. Look at it as a kind of as a model, a template, if you will. If it works there, then we'll know that it can be applied to other countries in the region, other conflicts in the region. America has an awesome power that it can bring to bear, an awesome power, folks. And I'm not just talking about our military. We finally have a president that understands socioeconomic, geopolitics. Kind of a mouthful. But you know, he understands that we can use this massive economic power we have and probably make a greater difference than we can using our awesome military. Now, Mary Ellen, you remember, I'm sure, but I hope some of the audience does. I have told y'all for years that wars are fought on many planes, haven't I?
Yep.
Wars are fought on many planes.
I read that yesterday in chapter 10 of 28 Years to Nowhere.
All right. Now, what that means, you know, you've got wars that go bang, bang, and bombs and guns, killing. That's a war. You also have environmental wars, kind of like people claiming the world's about to end from global warming, when nothing substantiates that. You've got political wars, which we see every day here. But you also have economic wars. Economic wars. So what President Trump has been able to do, he's been able to sit back and he's able to understand what many generals in the military have known for years and years and years, going back to Alexander the Great. If you're going to fight a battle, you need to pick the battlefield. The person that picks the battlefield generally wins. So what President Trump has done is he has sat back and he has looked at the situation there and he is choosing the battlefield to which he intends to fight. And folks, that battlefield is the economies of these nations. Now, so you know, our administrations prior to President Trump, many of them chose to use foreign aid as the thing that would make a difference. If we dangle money, if we dangle aid in front of all of these countries, that'll make them change. That'll make them get along. Well, guess what? It didn't. It hasn't. It hasn't. Then we come along with President Obama. President Obama brings a different type strategy, and that's appeasement. He comes in And he sides with the mohairs. He sides with the Muslims over America, thinking that if we give them everything, then they'll straighten up. Well, they didn't. They got worse. No, President Trump has chosen the battlefield.
Yeah, he should have known from Neville Chamberlain that would work.
Yes. So it's been chosen. Now it's a matter of refining the template. Watch Syria. Watch the things that work. Watch the things that don't work so well. It's actually quite incredible to see. But I'll tell you what's even more incredible than that. Than seeing this announcement of a permanent peace accord. What's more incredible than that announcement is the fact he did it while in the process of having Democrats and Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi trying to come up with something they can impeach him over, just find anything. And then to make it even worse, to have Pelosi and a group of our politicians go to Jordan and try to convince the leaders of the countries of that region to not trust President Trump, not to have anything to do with him, that he's a liar, that he will abuse them, rape them, take all their money. Can you believe they did that? Well, they did. They did. The good news is, even with all of the leaders that were at the meetings, the various meetings with Pelosi and the group, that I choose to call traitors, my words, I choose to call them traitors. Of the leaders that met with Pelosi, even though their source of media news from this country primarily is CNN, that's just about all they get. So you can imagine what they hear in our media about President Trump. And then you add Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, and this panel of congressmen and such, backing her up, saying that he's scurrilous and that he's terrible and you can't trust him, et cetera, even went so far, I will tell you this, even went so far, if you can believe it, to tell them they should never talk to the president on the telephone because it will be spread all over the country. Their private conversations will be made public. Figure that one out. How is a president to conduct international foreign affairs when you've got leaders that won't talk to him on the phone because they're afraid that their conversations, their private one-on-one conversations, will be broadcast to the world? You talk about sabotage and an administration's foreign policy, you just can't get much worse than that. But fortunately, most of the leaders that they dealt with, and I do say most, not all, even seeing all the stuff they've seen exclusively on CNN, you know what? They have enough sense to see through it and see that it's just political wrangling, that it's just politics, as they call it, American style now. It's quite a tribute to a man that we elected as president. Quite a tribute to the job the man we elected as president is doing, not just with our economy, but with the Middle East, with our trade relationships. Look at what he's doing. And look at the hailstorm he's having to do it in. Look at the environment he's having to do it in. You don't know this, but I'm going to tell you. President Trump is having trouble. It has become a real problem getting quality people that he wants, that he knows have the expertise to do the jobs we need in our government to come to work for him. because most of the people that he would choose to come work with him to help our nation grow and develop, they're successful. You know, why would you want to get people that have never been successful to develop a successful economic strategy for this nation? Why would you do that? Well, the answer is, if you're real, if you're a real businessman, if you've got common sense, of course you would not do that. You would want the best there is in the world. Well, guess what? He can't get the best very easy now, because what person that has already achieved success is willing to throw their name in the hat, knowing that the Democrats are going to do everything they can to not only destroy them, but to destroy their families, their entire companies, their worth, their world. They're going to do everything they can to destroy them and put them in jail if they can find a way to do it. Who that is already successful, and all they've got to do is sit back the rest of their life and live easy and well, why on earth would they expose themselves to that kind of stuff? Well, the answer is, it's getting hard to find people that will do that. It's getting very hard. So we're relegated now to a place where, if we want the best and brightest, helping President Trump lead our country in this recovery, if we really do, if we really want the best, calling the balls and strikes, the best in their respective industries, then we've got to win in 2020, or there won't be any chance for a future. Now, another thing happened today that I was very proud to see. A contingent of Republicans, House members, led by Jim Jordan and a few others, Meadows, they went down and crashed Adam Schiff's closed-door hearings. These hearings are unconstitutional. These hearings on their face are illegal. And they went down and demanded access. Now, the good news, well, the bad news is they didn't get much access. They did have to let them in because of the stink they raised. But nothing much happened from that except for one thing. It did shut down today's hearing. So now the Republicans know that they can shut these hearings down. They can go down every hearing they've got coming up and demand to be allowed in. Demand to be allowed in. I think it's a great move. I think it's applying pressure where pressure must be applied. These hearings must stop. Either do what President Trump sent in his letter to Nancy Pelosi. Either do it or shut the hell up. Either call for a full House vote for impeachment, get it going. If you're going to do it, get it on. And therefore allow President Trump and his legal team to mount a proper defense for the world to see, or shut the hell up and stop it. Lindsey Graham has issued a letter, and he is stating that if the House continues on with these closed-door hearings, and after the closed-door hearings, if that process continues on, if they do at that point recommend impeachment, even go so far as to have an impeachment hearing with the full House, like a grand jury, and vote, which they will, they would vote to call for an impeachment trial. Lindsey Graham has sent notification that they will deny a trial. They will not have any impeachment trial. So therefore, folks, this erroneous, illegal, fake impeachment process that they're going through can no longer even lead to an impeachment of the president because Lindsey Graham and several members of the Senate have sponsored legislation to deny any Senate trial. The Republicans have finally ratcheted up a little backbone. Now, will they live up to it? Who knows? Who knows? But the good news is, at least Graham is issuing the proclamation. He's at least issuing the potential for such an action to exist. Now, I've sat here and talked, I didn't mean to, for half of this program. If you've got questions, get them in. But hear me, please, as you talk to people, as we go and try to wake up the soft base, as we go and try to get our soft base to understand what's going on, I wish you would remember to carry from this program these messages to the soft base people and hard base people that you talk to. Number one, it's a great day when President Trump was able to solidify a permanent peace deal with Syria and Turkey and the Kurds. Now, you put a caveat on the permanent peace deal. It is the Middle East, so permanent in the Middle East does not guarantee permanent in the sense we think of permanent as forever. But it is a great start. He did that. Number two, as they are hit with all of these people claiming, well, now he's messed up. Now you've got Russia teaming up with Iran and Turkey, and they're going to make some kind of buddy-buddy deal and turn against us. That is not true. The reason we, me, you, all of us should want Russia in this accord is because of the safe zone. Somebody has to monitor and protect the 20-mile wide stretch called the safe zone, no fire zone, buffer zone. And it's down to either American troops doing that, which means they are subject to being shot at and killed, or it's down to, next to us, the preference would be our NATO allies in the region providing troops to protect that area, which they're not doing and won't do. So if it's not going to be us, if it's not going to be the NATO alliance people, then let Russia do it. Let Russia do it. Let Russia get in and let their troops be shot at, not our sons and daughters. And you be sure and tell them, well, this pact, this deal that Erdogan and the Russians are going to make, that's going to make them buddy-buddy, that's going to hurt us. You be sure and tell them that ain't happening. Because President Trump knows, so does Erdogan, if he's got to pair up with Russia or the U.S., there is no choice. It will be he'll pair up with us because we can destroy him economically. Russia cannot do that. It's a great day. And it's once again a president that we elected for the first time in so long a time, I can't even remember. This is the first time we have a president doing what he actually said he would do in his campaign. Promises made, promises kept. Now, Mary Ellen, any questions so far?
Yeah, hold on. James said, are the Republicans coming out against Schiff? And what's happening?
The Republicans are giving the appearance, James, that they're coming out against Schiff. But they're not. They're not. Remember, of the 173 Republicans that supposedly co-sponsored legislation, which was kind of weird, if you voted yes, you were voting to keep Schiff. If you voted no, you were voting to get rid of Schiff. So it's 173, just to the way the bill was worded or the motion was worded. 173 Republicans co-sponsored having Adam Schiff removed as the chairman of this committee. Looks good, doesn't it? Looks like 173 Republicans are in bed now with Trump. They're finally getting on board. That's not true. Of the 173 Republicans that co-sponsored that legislation, I assure you 60 to 80% of that 173 Republicans hate everything about President Trump because they are as deep state as is any Democrat. And I would put the number closer to 80% of the 173 than I would the 60%. But they were boxed in where they had to show something. And in the interest of everybody having to run an election, they went ahead and co-sponsored it. But it was a safe vote for all of them, you see, because they knew, even though they co-sponsored it, they knew it wouldn't happen because they didn't have control. So it was a safe vote. It didn't mean anything technically other than just to show for their constituents that they were, quote unquote, the good guys. But they're not. They're not. What you got?
I said yesterday, Larry, that this is another example, what you just said about the 173 co-sponsoring this bill. This is another example of the games that are played with all the freebies that they're offering to the Democrat soft base, because they know even if the House, the Senate, and President Trump were to approve such freebies, the Appropriations Committee would never fund it. Therefore, they know it's just a lie to get votes. And they do this over.
They do it all the time, folks. They can tell you, in case you're a new listener and do not understand the appropriations process, let's say the House and the Senate all vote to pay off all college outstanding debt. There'll be no more college outstanding debt, and they're paying off all existing college outstanding debt. Let's say the House and the Senate both pass it, and it goes to President Trump. And President Trump even, now all of this is hypothetical and he would not do it, but anyway, let's just say for purposes of an example, that even when they pass it, they send it to him and he signs it into law. Now it's a done deal, right? Everybody sitting out there with a big old high-dollar college debt can sigh with relief, right? No. Here's the rest of the process that they don't tell you about. So once it's approved, it goes to what's called the Appropriations Committee. Now, the Appropriations Committee, what they do is they look at the revenue we've got coming in as a nation. They see all the money that's coming in. And then they say, this college debt thing's going to cost, I'm picking a figure, $3 trillion. And we don't have $3 trillion over and above what we're already spending. So at that point, the Appropriations Committee's got to do one of two things. They've either got to cut programs that are already being funded to the tune of that $3 trillion, or guess what? They move that college loan payoff deal into the unappropriated debt, which means, yes, it's approved, and someday maybe if there's ever enough money in there, they'll put it back in and get it. But as for now, it can't be done because they don't have the money to pay for it. Now, this will explain to you when you see our debt clock or the debt thing, and the debt thing says we owe $20 trillion, but then they turn around and tell you there's $190 trillion debt. What's the deal? Is it 20 trillion or is it 190? Well, 20 trillion is that which is funded. The 120 trillion unfunded liabilities, those are all the programs that have been passed over the years that when they got to appropriations committee, guess what? There wasn't any money to do them. So they go into the unfunded liability category. And unfunded liability means, yes, it was passed. Yes, it was supposed to work. Yes, they were going to do it, but there wasn't any money to do it. So it's unfunded liability. It's a liability because they passed a law saying they were going to do it, right? They passed a law saying they're going to pay off all college debt. So it's a liability. It's just like a bill. We've got a bill for $3 trillion, but we just don't have the money to pay for it. And that's one of the oldest games in the book in the modern Washington, D.C. playbook. Around since using it the way they use it is pretty much all after World War II. But there are a ton of things that have been passed, folks. Laws that have been passed, projects that have been passed, things that are supposed to be up and running today that have been passed and signed, duly signed by the president, but they're not being done because there was no money to do them. So always remember, when you see the debt clock and they tell you whatever it is, I'm just guessing 20 trillion, but then somebody will throw out this 116 or 120, whatever it is, the unfunded liability. Unfunded liability, now you know what it is. It is bills, laws that have been passed, projects that have been passed, just as they're supposed to be. They're legitimate. But when they got there, we didn't have money to do them, so they fall into unfunded liability. What you got, Miriam?
And I'll add that next time something comes up that needs to be funded, these past unfunded liabilities will probably be continued to stay unfunded because something new will take precedent because it's new.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. When you hit unfunded liabilities, guys, you're never getting funded.
Yeah,
you're never.
It's pretty much a done deal at that point. So has our military gone into Iran or Iraq?
Military, I don't know what's been made public, so I've got to be careful, but I will say this. It is intended that our military will be moved into Iraq, not into Iran. We will maintain two augment forces, one in Iraq and one in Saudi Arabia. They're augmentation forces, which means if they're needed, if something falls apart in Syria and we've got to have some quick action response, we've got two augmentation units ready to go within minutes in striking distance. But they will not, hear me on this, they will not be called into action for any lengthy project. They won't. They may go in and do whatever they got to do, and then they come right back out. There will be no long-standing commitment. Now, I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
I can't remember. I was just going to go on to the next question. I was going to tell you that I have heard that they were going into Iraq, so that's out there.
Okay, good.
Ruth, you asked a question. I didn't understand it, so can you type it again? Because I didn't understand what you were asking to be able to ask Larry. So these people in Congress that have made so much money, millions off the military-industrial complex, if we don't have war, where are they going to keep making their bundles of money?
That's their problem, you see. If we're not in perpetual wars, which puts a perpetual load on replacing and restocking our weapons armament, then guess what? They don't get money. And if they don't get money, guess what? They don't throw a lot of money to Lindsey Graham and his group. That's the cog in the wheel that President Trump is breaking. And it's a significant cog, I assure you. But it needs to be done, and it takes a president with courage to do it, and he's doing it. What else?
What's your opinion of Ben Carson? He seems to be a loyal cabinet leader.
Well, I do not know the man personally. I've met him twice, but I do not know him. But from what I have seen, he seems to be genuine. He's a very thoughtful man. He is not your typical politico. He's not a shoot from the hip kind of guy. So I think he is a good man for that position. He's not as fiery. He's not as flamboyant as maybe some would like. But he seems to be good at keeping his head down and trying to work his job and do it as best he can. And I know to the person yesterday, day before yesterday, that sent in the thing saying I don't ever answer questions. I know that was one where I didn't answer you the way you probably wanted to hear it, but that's all I could say.
Yeah.
What you got?
Tulsi's saying that Trump's giving American troops to Saudi Arabia to do and use as they see fit. But you said that's not the way it's going to work. Right?
Say that again.
So look what James says. What about Tulsi saying Trump's giving American troops to Saudi Arabia to use and do with as they see fit? Your thoughts?
And when who are you saying is saying that? I can't understand you.
James said that Tulsi.
Tulsi who? Tulsi Gabbard. All right.
Saying this.
She is wrong. President Trump, I assure every one of you listening to me right now, nobody, I mean nobody, has the decision-making power over our military and where they go or what they do other than President Trump and our government. Saudi Arabia doesn't even get to vote, folks. They don't get to vote. Now, they get to probably vote on where our soldiers get to stay in Saudi Arabia, you know, basically which part of town they can stay in or whatever. But as far as their implementation, drive that, James, out of your mind. That ain't never happening. As long as this man's president, and as long as President Trump's breathing, that ain't never happening. Nobody will control our military. Nobody.
And if we're no longer the police of the world, who's going to do it?
To be honest, it's NATO and it's the UN's job. And if they don't do it, then guess what? These countries are just going to have to rot, or these countries are just going to have to do what President Trump allowed to happen between the Kurds and the Turks. You know, they're going to have to fight. The fight is coming anyway. If we step in or anybody else steps in and intercedes, it's simply just buying time. But if there's ever going to be anything long-standing that works out to calm a region down or to keep down these endless wars, in all honesty, it's going to have to come from the players involved in the wars, not from the forces that are sent in to maintain peace, because all you're doing is maintaining it while you're there. But when you leave, it's going to go back to ground zero. So President Trump has it right, guys. He does. It's tough. You may not like it, but it's tough. these countries, these nations, these century-old feuds and wars, they're just going to have to work themselves out. Once and for all, they're going to have to divide up, and they may even have to fight. And it may be brutal. It may be savage. Millions of people may die, but they're going to die anyway. It's just a matter of time. It's just whether they die now or wait until we or whoever's holding them apart eventually leaves. They're going to fight sometime, so it might as well be now, just as long as it's not American troops that are paying the price. What you got?
Wow. Is it possible the government is blowing up the debt on purpose so there's no choice than to default?
Well, let me put it this way. Yes, that is partially true. If the deep state gets their way, yes, because that's one of the tools that they intend to use to force us to become a socialist country fast. Do y'all hear me? This is one of the tricks that they fully intended to play on us to force us to agree to nationalizing our financial institutions. This was the play. President Trump has nipped that in the bud. So, not now, unless President Trump loses. But if he loses, this will be tanking our economy, basically bankrupting this nation, is the total, complete desire of the socialists within the Democratic Party.
Wow.
Because that would force most Americans to have to agree to nationalizing the financial institutions, quote unquote, to protect us.
Yeah, right. April made a suggestion early in the program that I want to respond to. She was talking about, and I'm going to say it out loud so everybody can hear because people don't see the chat after we're done. On Friday night at 11:59, and I don't know which time zone that's in. So if you all participate in your own time zone, then we can do something with this. At 11:59 Friday night, October 25th, the witches in America are planning on having a binding ceremony to block everything Trump is trying to do. We have, greater is he that is in us than he that's in the world. There are 2/3 more angels with God than there are with Satan. We have the power and the authority through Jesus Christ to block what they're trying to do. And there's at least one pastor who is called for a day of fasting and praying on Friday. And people are being asked to please, before midnight on Friday night, do warfare prayers. That is where you are asking God in Jesus' name to block and bind what they are doing. Scripture says that a curse that is not deserved does not alight, but it goes back on the head of the one sending the curse. And so that is scriptural. Pray scripture, find that verse and quote it Friday night. And we can take a stand against them. And they've been doing it ever since Trump came into office. So this isn't anything new. It's just a new type of cursing that they're going to do. And it can be stopped and blocked. And so I'm doing it. I've been praying against it already all week. And we need to do this Friday night. If you can't stay up till midnight, do it before you go to bed. But this is something we can and should do. It is time for Christians to start taking our authority that we're supposed to have had from the beginning. And this sin of omission with our not getting involved in what's going on in this country has got to stop. So
yeah, and I want to add something to that, guys. Mary Ellen knows this. Pastor Ernie Sanders knows it very well because he was the one that helped me understand it. For the biggest part of my life, I'm just going to tell you, for the biggest part of my life, I wasn't scared for nothing from the devil. I didn't know if I don't know if I didn't believe in him. I don't know what it was, but he didn't scare me at all. Didn't scare me a bit. I have since learned that you better be afraid of him. He is here. His presence is all over. If you want to know where he's at right now, if you want to pick an address, I would pick Washington, D.C. He's alive and well there. And I've also learned through Pastor Sanders and through Mary Ellen that we can't fight him. We can't. I mean, I can't. Maybe you think you can. It's your business. But we've got to keep that battle. Remember, wars are fought on different planes. So this is a spiritual battle that's between Jesus and the devil, not us and the devil. Jesus and the devil. Jesus can whip him. We can't. So please, from me, and I'm not this holier than thou Christian religion-y guy. I am a Christian trying to be, and from the sound of some of the Christians that I've heard and run across over the years, I'm kind of getting to where I don't even want to be called a Christian, but it's not for lack of my faith in Jesus Christ. It's my lack of faith in people that profess to be, quote unquote, great followers of Christ. But believe in it. Believe in it and call God to fight the devil. Ask him to fight. We can't. That's not our battle. That's his. Now, did I say that right, Mary Ellen, or did I condemn myself to hell for that too?
No, of course you did not condemn yourself.
Oh, okay.
We do have authority over the demonic. We do. That is, greater is he that is in you than he that's in the world, and we have the authority because of the blood of Christ. If you are living a godly life and you're not filling your life with sin, then you have the power and authority to take them on and rebuke them and bind them. And I mean, what a lot of people do is say, demon, you will go to the foot of Jesus and be told where you're allowed to go. Now, Michelle suggested that we do a YouTube at midnight on Friday night, or, start before midnight. I think rather than doing it on YouTube, Michelle, I think I'd rather do it through the conference call line, and let's just have the conference call and pray on the conference call. And so I'm going to type, that number is right underneath the video in the description box. So if you're watching this, you can get it. I'll say it to you right now. If you can write down, I'll tell you it in a couple minutes. So you've got a pen and pencil ready. I think it'd be better to use the conference call than to do it on YouTube. Somebody asked, when is the Sergeant at Arms going to arrest these traitors?
It's not going to happen that way. Arresting these traitors is going to have to be done via a legal process. The question was put to me today. Someone had called their representative, their member of the House of Representatives. They called their office and said, why are the Republicans going to hold hearings to go after Obama and Clapper and Brennan and all of these people and Hillary and the administration for what they did? This representative's assistant said, oh no, we can't do that because they're no longer employees of the government. They're not any longer. Now, what I had to explain to that person who happened to be my cousin, I had to explain that they sort of told the truth, but they sort of didn't. When you're talking about arresting and going after, say, Obama, Clapper, Brennan, Hillary, the people that were in Obama's administration that set up this entire illegal counter-espionage investigation and the whole effort to get Trump defeated and then eventually impeached. Since they are no longer in office, no, they cannot be sought by the House. Now, here's what the House can do. The House can hold hearings to discover what went on. And out of that investigation, they may find out Hillary, Obama, Clapper, or whomever were involved in a crime, at which point they would then turn their recommendation of prosecution over to the Department of Justice. Then the Department of Justice would have to make a decision whether to go after them or not. The House, as such, could not apply any penalty to somebody that's not presently in government employ. The same would hold true, which makes it hard for the Inspector General, Horowitz. It's hard for him because he has no power to force, for example, Clapper or Brennan or Obama or Hillary. The Inspector General cannot force them to come and talk with him. He can't issue a subpoena. He can't demand them to come and talk to him because they're no longer involved with the government. He just can't do it. The only people the Inspector General has the power to talk to, if they refuse to talk to him willingly, are people that are presently in government employ. So that's where the answer to my cousin was half right and half wrong. They did tell the truth. No, they can't, through the House, go after Obama and his group and prosecute them or put penalty on them from the House, from the committee, or from the full House even. They can't do it. But they can hold the investigation, and then through the investigation, be able to turn it over to the Department of Justice with a recommendation to prosecute.
Changing the subject, Gloria says, Larry, I'm really enjoying your book. We'll pass it around to family when I'm finished. My 87-year-old mother wants it now, so I may give it to her today and get it back Sunday when I go over there. Thank you, Gloria, for your recommendation. If you didn't hear yesterday's broadcast, I read chapter 10 yesterday, where he says that chapter title is The Future is War. And he talks about war on 8 different levels. People that, the various aspects that we're going to have to fight: Islam, the media, the cultural elite, and so on. So if you missed yesterday, that's what we did. Another question. Somebody's asking again about about martial law, about Hillary or Bloomberg being drafted at the last minute to come in.
Well, relative to martial law, there will be no martial law with President Trump as president. However, with this caveat, if ever we're going to have to be under martial law, then I would rather it be under President Trump than anybody else that we've seen or in the foreseeable future. But it's not coming as planned. What's the second part?
2 people asked, what about Hillary, and somebody else asked about Bloomberg at the last minute.
Hillary, guys, I'm still staying with, I don't think Hillary is going to get in. Not because she doesn't want to, probably, but because she has let the party down so bad that they hate her guts. They don't want her in. Now, they can't stop her from getting in. The only thing that troubles me today, and it's really a possibility, I guess you could say now, and I'm not saying she's getting in, I'm just saying it just adds to the possibility she might, is it is such a dastardly, horrible field of candidates that they've got, and the party's waking up and realizing it. The Progressive Council, I think, is realizing big time that they've got an absolute losing list of candidates. So with that, you had this late entry possibility of somebody like a Bloomberg or even somebody like Hillary. Remember, with the Clintons, you don't ever count them out totally. They're like vampires. Until you drive that stake in the heart, they're still liable to pop back up. But I still don't believe she would have enough support internally to get in, and she should know it. But she's so arrogant, folks. You might say bets are somewhat off. But as of this moment, still today, I'm telling you, knowing Hillary the way I do, knowing the Democrats the way I do, knowing especially the Progressive Council people the way I do, she's not getting in this race. But things can change. This is such a volatile period of time for our nation. And guys, I'm not going to fall into that same trick we've all been in before many, many times, which is we've said this, that, or the other can't happen, and then it happens. So if there's ever been a time where she should not be allowed to run and shouldn't get in the race, no way should she get in the race at all. If there was ever a time that that could be violated, it's now. But don't be surprised if somebody like a Bloomberg, somebody that has the money and the power, they could get in and be formidable, be very formidable. But if they're going to do it, I'll add this. If anybody else is getting in this race, they better get their butts in, because they are running out of time until it may be too late. What else?
Gloria said, good news. Florida's Senate panel Monday night endorsed Governor DeSantis' ouster of Broward County Sheriff Scott Israel. He will not be reinstated. Yay.
Good.
Yeah, that is good. No, Hillary doesn't have a chance against Trump. Question, somebody asked about Pelosi. Why did Pelosi go to the Middle East? You covered that already, so they'll have to go back and listen to the beginning. And you also said, somebody asked, when is the FISA report coming out? And you said that it has been, Trump said it can be let out, but it's up to Barr to decide the timing of much of it.
Once again, let me be very clear about the FISA Inspector General report. It will come out when Attorney General Barr is ready for it to come out. I know some of you are a bit concerned because the Democrats are in a position at this time to where they're going through and looking at the redactions or looking at what they think should be redacted. Don't be alarmed by that. That is normal. That's just. That's fair. That just because they say they want this redacted or they want this not redacted, whatever they want, just because they want it, it comes back to Barr, but Barr will make the decision. They don't. Just because they want something redacted does not mean he redacts it. He will redact exactly what he feels needs to be redacted. And I can promise you, this is from him, he intends to release every period, every comma, every word that he can possibly release. He does not look forward to redacting any of it. Some of it he'll have to, and he knows it, but he wants to minimize that. But it will come out when he's ready, totally at his discretion. And all of these people that keep throwing these arbitrary dates around, you know, I heard it was last Friday it was coming out, and I warned you, be careful. I don't think it's coming out very well. It didn't. Now I'm hearing, you know, it'll come out by the end of the month. Folks, don't go believing anything on the date certain of the release of the IG report having to do with FISA. There are several factors involved into the timing and the release of that report. And William Barr will make it. And you better hope that he makes the right determination for the right reasons. What you got, right quick?
Dave Hodges and Lisa Haven today are supposed to be calling for everybody, asking for everybody to call their senator. Oh, and I wrote down the quote of what they were asking, and I forgot. Sal, hold on. I forgot to write down what it is, but it has something to do with, we expect you to support our president. And if you're saying now that Graham is saying there will be no hearing in the Senate, then it doesn't sound like that's the necessity that they might have thought was needed yesterday.
Well, no, now remember, that's Lindsey Graham and a handful of others. That does not mean every Republican senator has agreed to go along with their recommendation.
Okay.
So still, it does not hurt in this case. I would add to what they're asking people to say, not knowing, of course, what they've asked. Mary Ellen, I don't know what they've asked. I mean, you've told us generally, but I would add to support Lindsey Graham's motion that if they continue to do the sealed impeachment process, that the Republicans in the Senate refuse to hold a Senate trial, refuse to hold a Senate impeachment trial. I would think that would be more important to tell them than just generally support your president.
Yeah.
But that's me. That's me, my opinion.
It was a one sentence thing that they were suggesting, and it was basically, support our president. We want you to support the president. So I like what you're saying now. And so would you give us the go ahead to make a bunch of calls?
Yes.
Okay.
What I would prefer to do, Mary Ellen, is you draft and post a very short script for them to say, so that we have everybody saying the exact right words.
All right, we'll post that today, and it should be up by tonight, and we will announce it tomorrow that it's there.
Yes. So folks, hold your fire until we get an official script for you to read or to say, if you don't mind. Now, you say whatever you want to. You can call them now and say whatever. I would just, in the interest of force multiplication and success, it would be great to have everybody follow the rules of the force multiplication program.
Sal has asked several times something about, people have mentioned different people in government, for example, Barr, who are part of the SES, Senior Executive Services, and they're asking, they don't understand why you don't know anything about it, and, can't you say more? But you discussed that the last time you were here with us on Monday, and I can't imagine you have more to say other than you're not real familiar with it. So
no, I'm not.
Sal is asking, please find it.
I promised that I would ask about it to the people I deal with, and I have not. So I'm sorry I failed to do what I said I'd do, but I will do it.
But you haven't had time the long hours you've been working. Give him.
The other thing too, it's just, folks, just remember some of the things I'm involved in are pretty intense, and I'm not in a position oftentimes to just pop a question out of the blue that may not be directly related to what we're working on or involved with. But I will try to get you an answer on that. I will try. Please trust me, I will try. Anything else before we go?
Somebody asked about Graham. Why isn't Graham holding committee hearings?
That's a question that not only is frustrating to you, listener, but to me, and I think it's frustrating to you, and I'm sure it's frustrating to most of the people listening to us now. But the other thing is, it's very frustrating to President Trump and to his staff. They would definitely like to see more aggression coming from the House Republicans, not just Lindsey Graham, but from the House Republicans, period. The problem is Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, I know of 3 different attempts to start investigations in the Senate that McConnell blocked and would not let get going. Mitch McConnell, regardless of what he says, regardless of where it looks like he stands on any given day, I want you all to remember this. Mitch McConnell is a beneficiary of the deep state process. He wants it the way it's been. And he wants it to go the way the deep state and the liberals and the progressives want it to go. Remember, if we fall, he will be a key player in the elitist group that will be ruling the world. And he'll be a key player in it. And he's not going to give that up for anything. So don't trust Mitch McConnell. I know President Trump does not. What else?
People are asking where can they find the script when we do it and the phone numbers to call. We will tell you where to find the phone numbers. I'm not going to write out 100 phone numbers for you, but I will tell you where to find them. And we will have the script. It'll be on the website, nicholslive.com. It'll either be right at the front page or else it'll be on the blog. So that's it.
And just know this, if you don't find it tonight, if you want to be a part of our force multiplication program, we're not even going to start calling until tomorrow when we announce it formally. So don't worry, it will be announced tomorrow and you'll hear it and you'll have it tomorrow when we start the calling program. But I do hope when we start the force multiplication program project that all of you will participate. There are enough people listening to me now, plus those that will be listening later, that we can make it work in a big way.
And I will call Lisa Haven and make sure that I've got a whole list of people that I will call and let them know we have a script and with directions on how to do the force multiplication process, so that they can get it out to their people, because I appreciate the fact that Dave Hodges and Lisa Haven are concerned enough to say, okay, we're getting to a point where we need to stand with our president. But I like what you've added, and so we'll make sure that this is put out. And am I a member of the deep state? No, absolutely not. What a silly question. Thanks, James.
Yeah. Was that James? James.
We have 2 James. This is the one that asked this kind of question. So.
Good shot, James. Not true, but good shot. I assure you, neither Mary Ellen or I, or anybody, 90% of the people listening right now, we're not deep staters by any stretch.
Yeah. And Barbara,
we're not a disinformation program either, so you need to know. And how can you tell that? You can tell that because of the things I've told you. As a matter of fact, if you go back and listen to some of the programs I've told you about what was going to happen in Syria with Turkey and the Kurds and all of that, I think if you go back and look at what I've told y'all ahead of time and what actually was announced today, I think you'll find something that's awfully strikingly similar. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, you listened to last Friday or last Monday. He gave a hint, so he knows what's coming, and he lets us know. So that is not deep state. What do you think if Ross Perot had become president? Would he have gone through what Trump's going through?
What do I think about who?
Ross Perot, had he won.
Oh, if he'd have won.
If he had won. Would he be going through what Trump's going through?
No, if he'd have won, it would have been the same outcome, but it would have been a total different type of strategy to get him, but they would have gotten him.
Yeah. And Barr can go after people in Trump's second term because there will be a change in the judges, and that'll make it possible to be able to do what we did before.
There is in his agenda for his second term, there is very much a plan to straighten up the judicial branch. Trust me. And it's got to be straightened out. Now, we're not going to be able, I got this last night, we're not going to be able to hold off potential prosecutions for Comey, McCabe, and that crew until after 2020. It's just not going to happen. It's going to have to be sooner than that. Didn't want it to be, but it's going to have to be. So and that adds another layer of difficulty into the releasing of the IG report. So, but President Trump fully intends to do his part come re-election time. If he's re-elected, he fully intends to do his part to bust up the judicial branch and how it's been totally taken over. Totally.
And don't forget, one of the issues we also have is when you look at what Pelosi's son, Kerry's son, Biden's son, Comey's daughter as assistant prosecutor, district attorney up in New York, I mean, and Chelsea Clinton, you know, we've got the next generation of people from these families getting ready to step into positions of power. So we got to get rid of these people, but we've also got to be prepared to deal with the next generation coming at us.
Yes, we do. And the best way to deal with the next generation is what we've got to do now. Remember, everything in our world, yours and mine, and our families and our grandkids, everything having to do with our world comes to a head in November of 2020. And we either in 2020 lose our country totally to socialism within 6 months to a year. I'm not stuttering on that timetable. You'll notice I've never stuttered. I've told you within 6 months to a year, we'll be a full-throated socialist country that quick. Now, they may call it something else, but it'll be what it is. Or we will be a revitalized constitutional representative republic the way we were meant to be. We will. One of two things are going to happen. That's just it. It don't get any straighter than that. Now, I do want to add before we go, doing what I'm doing and doing this program is taking one hell of a toll on me. It truly is.
Well, you couldn't be here yesterday. That's the level of toll it took. And we weren't with the condition you were in yesterday if you'd even be here to be with us today.
You know, guys, I don't like doing this, but we're down to really cutting it close. I mean, cutting it so very, very close. So I need at least 6 of you, maybe 7 if you can, to go to PayPal and send $100 if you can. 6 or 7 of you. It may end up being 14 or 15 at 50 each. But guys, I need you to do it desperately now, please. Now. I'm not stuttering. I'm telling you exactly what I've got to have. And I know there's 6 or 7 of you out there that can do that. But I got to ask you to do it and do it now. Please, if you want me to continue on, if you want me to be able to continue on, I've got to ask for your help. I just have to. I have nowhere else to go. Nowhere. I don't like begging. And if it was just for me, I wouldn't beg at all. But the work that I'm involved in is, I think, very important. But now that's my opinion. So whatever. So will 6 or 7 of you look real hard and see if you can, or how much you can. There may be somebody out there that can send 1,000. If you can, damn it, do it now. It's that critical. But with that, Mary Ellen, I need to go. I'm having trouble even talking.
I can hear that, Larry. It's been an hour and 20 minutes. So thank you for being with me.
But folks, I want you to know, I don't tell y'all enough how much I appreciate all of you. How much I appreciate what all of y'all have done for me and what you've done for the country. I love you all. I will always keep my pledge to you and keep you informed ahead in any and every case that I can. So just never forget how much Mary Ellen and I, especially me, how much we appreciate you and think of you. So with that, y'all have a good day, but 6 or 7 of you, I'm begging you, please come through right away. Thank you. Cheers, Mary Ellen.
Thanks. Thanks, Matt. Thanks. If anybody will let me know that you're donating and how much, we do have somebody who will do some matching. So I'd like to be able to take advantage of that if possible. So thanks, Matt, for what you did. Again, Larry's PayPal is the fastest way to get the money to him. It's nicholslive@aol.com. That's his account, nicholslive@aol.com. And I told you guys I would give you the conference call number. We just got another donation. Fantastic. Thank you. I'm going to put in, if you want to send a text, I'm putting that number in the chat right now. It's 240-499-6729. That's my cell phone number. So you can, text is the best way to get hold of me, because then I can call you from the landline. And then if you, to Friday night, tonight at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and then Friday night at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and then also just before midnight Eastern, we will have, on Friday night, we will have the prayer call to do warfare against what the witches are going to do. Let's see, I'm typing that number in, the conference call number, 712-451-0725, and then you need an access code, and that is 492-215#. So that's tonight and Friday. We'll have a time of prayer tonight too, just because it's important, and I can't take that call. I need to take it, but I'll call her right back in a minute. So I just put that number in there. Lena, can you see the number? It's the 240 number. It should be there. So it's under, it should be just, boy, it didn't show up. Thank you, Mary, very much for doing that. All right, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to run over to the bank. $50 came in the mail. I got to get that over to the bank for Larry. And folks know that he wants to be able to say thank you to everybody, but he is working such ungodly long hours. I've never seen anybody. I was married to somebody who worked 100 hours a week on a regular basis. I've never seen anybody work the kind of hours. Thanks, Michelle. Can anybody match that 100? That would be great. Do whatever you can. And I appreciate that some of you have done what you could already and can't do more. I understand that. We do have the ability to match. So let me know if you've sent something so we can get, she'll match up to $25. So thanks, Michelle. Just send me a text, Michelle, and let me know what you've done. That's it. Okay. Thank you for everybody who's been here. God bless you. And we will talk tomorrow. And remember, the website is also in the right up underneath the video. It's nicholslive.com. And I will get that script written. I'll call Larry and read it to him, and we'll get that out. And then you are welcome to copy it or send people to the website. Anybody you know. I mean, somebody like Lisa Haven that's already calling for something, say, hey, there's a script there, and we can do phone numbers. tell them, you know, put it in there. If you have any way to contact anybody like that, that'd be great. Julie, I will match that with the 50 I just did. If somebody else can match the 50, that would be awesome. So see what you can do. Send me a text, and I mean, I'll check with Larry with what he's gotten in a little bit. I'm going to run to the bank right now. So thanks everybody. God bless you. And I'll tell you, we thought we had somebody who was able to donate, and they weren't. It hasn't come through. It's still supposedly coming, but we're still waiting. So thank you, Dave. I'm putting my cell phone number in one more time. It is also underneath the video in the chat, in the write-up in the box underneath, but I'll put it in there right now for you. So thank you, and thanks, Jack. And we'll talk tomorrow. God bless you. Thanks for being here. Bye.